Well, with the addition to base defense, does that mean the game's going to get more traps?
That's something that, yeah, we're looking at our traps and seeing how we can improve that system as well. Because you have to deal with the insects somehow, right? You
Yeah.
gotta have some traps to kill them.
Hey Ratbags, it's Jades. That was the speaking of Adam at the last Casually Grounded, talking about traps coming to the game, getting more of them, and improvements to base defences. So I thought it's about time we actually cover what we do know, what we've seen in the past that got removed, like the ice and honey traps, and talk about what the game could really benefit from in terms of base defences. I am Jade. I've covered Grounded since the very beginning, 150 videos on my main survival channel, and now JCraft's the proper home of Grounded content going forward. So if you want to see loads of it, go and check out the first main channel. And now though, fresh content always here, JCraft first. So I have gone over some of my old footage a bunch of times, way back when Grounded released. July 2020, in fact, I showed you guys some of the traps that weren't actually released and have never been released until hopefully maybe the near future. We're not guaranteeing that some of these traps will appear, but I'm kind of hoping they do. If you don't know, quick rundown. There were a ice and honey trap added to the game, with the honey being meant to slow you down and ice being something that you would speed along, just like them pebbles there. Obviously it was unfinished art at the time, but that was what they both looked like and what they both did. Then we had the catapult, and we also had other things as well. There was a slingshot in the game, and there was some sort of mad orb, which I'm taking you through now, some of the stuff. So this is the kind of things that I've always wanted Grounded to have. I feel like Grounded sometimes doesn't have as much replayability, because once you do the story and you complete some of the dungeons, that's pretty much it. Now that can take a good amount of time, but unless you're into base building, there's not as many reasons maybe to carry on playing sometimes. So base defenses, modes where bugs will come and attack you on a more regular basis. That's interesting to me. That means you can craft and make all sorts of different bases to test theories out about the bugs, and it gives the game a little bit more playability. Now, back in the day, these bugs didn't really activate some of these traps that very well, and we're going to test out the two that we do have in a moment as I'm going to spawn some bugs in and stuff. In fact, the bugs would be so smart as to go around the traps, which again I found pretty interesting and smart most of the time anyway. So before I showed you that first clip, Adam had really let the cat out of the bag that base defences were getting massively improved, and it was a big feature they've been working on for a long time. For some reason I thought they're only going to be mentioning maybe the AI being improved, but it does look like they are going to be adding the traps as we saw at the beginning of the video, as well as a whole host of other improvements. So don't want to worry anyone when I say that maybe bugs are coming into the game to start attacking you. The devs haven't confirmed how it's actually going to work, although they did answer a question that I asked in the stream, which was...
I think I saw one from Jade. Would base defense be optional? Or is it something that's just going to happen?
Yeah, it's a good question. It is something that we are currently looking at. We know that base defense can be something that players don't want to deal with, so we are looking at solutions for that. So that is something that is in the cards, like looking at having that option. But some of it, depending on how things turn out, there might be something where it might be, when I say base defense, it also is just something where like we're getting creatures to, like push back a little bit too. So in part of the general like gameplay, like just getting creatures to be a little more similar to like ants stealing food, more kind of behaviors like that. So we are looking at ways of improving those systems. I don't want to say I'm trying to like steer around it because I don't want to spoil anything. Leaving that to the next update. So yeah, but that's a great question, and thanks for the feedback on that one. We are, I think we'll have some stuff to address that.
So that in mind, we know that the devs are looking at ways to make it an option, just like they've got all the other options where you can keep your pets alive forever. You don't have to worry about food or water, or you can make the game hard by losing your backpack or items. So clearly they do want to make it as customizable as possible. So if you're not liking the idea of more ants coming to grab your food or other creatures, then hopefully there'll be solutions for you. But I do kind of hope it's a main component of the game going forward. At one point I figured they might actually not bother doing this kind of game mode because they hadn't spoke about it for so long or shown off any of the features, and with their new release date of coming out later on this year for the full 1.0, I kind of suspected that maybe it was just going to be one of them things that got left. But I'm so pleased it hasn't. It really does brighten up a lot of other games. Imagine being able to put a whole bunch of honey traps around your base to stop a maybe horde of ants coming to attack it. What if the base defense isn't just a case of passerby ants coming to get you, but maybe a planned thing? Maybe there'll be a timer, maybe you'll activate something and that the backyard pretty much says, nope, we're going to go and get you. We know there's an ant pheromone sort of device in the game. It's been long rumoured that there will be an ant queen that has direct control of the ants, obviously. So what if it ties into the base defense? This is just my sort of fantasy thinking list, but they're the kind of things I would love to see added to the game. Now here you can see some of the other items, like the catapult. It worked, but some of these items you cannot spawn in the game. They were removed completely or properly. You can't even find any of the game art anymore for these items in the game files. If you've been watching me a while, you know that I've dived into this stuff a lot. But the catapult certainly was one of the more interesting ones because it could repel not just bugs but you as well, and I thought it was a great way to get around the yard. Now with the bouncers being able to have directional control, you probably don't need these as much as we used to because it pretty much does the same job. But obviously they are a bit more flatter and closer to the ground and you can activate them obviously. So imagine being able to just fling bugs away from your base, or if you built something near the water and you'd be able to chuck ants into the water and get them away from destroying you. That's all sounding good to me. Maybe a little bit of a precursor, but I was testing out the idea of these catapults and obviously bounce webs to see what kind of traction we'd get going forward. Then we had the Slingshot Turret, which was not functional. You could just about spawn it in and it really wouldn't work. And the idea I'm guessing is that it would throw something like a slingshot, I'm guessing is like a pebble. Something you can get behind and aim at bugs. Imagine building a castle and having these dotted all around. And like I said, for one big final battle maybe, you'll be facing off against all sorts of spiders and ladybugs and stink bugs all coming to attack you. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think we're going to have a game mode where there'll be 20 million of these hitting you. But maybe something along the lines of, like I said, it'll be just the regular ants coming to get you, and maybe some of the other flying creatures, possibly, which we'll talk about. This last item that never really worked either, and it was a pebble dumper. Now, originally, I figured it would drop pebbles on players' heads, but clearly it's a pebble dumper, as in it's somewhere to hold pebbles, so stone, your basic resources. And we still don't have that in the game, really, other than making maybe like a foundation out of pebbles, which you obviously lose some of the resources when you destroy it. You don't actually have anywhere to keep stone. So that might be something that we still see, but it's not really a base defense. But at the time making this video, I kind of felt like it was. Then we've got the Tripwire Bombs. I've never used one of these. I didn't even realise this was a thing. So we're going to test this out now to see if they actually work. Because I swear, I've never seen them used. Yep, they work. Obviously, they do quite a lot of damage. They're pretty OP for smaller creatures like ants, and they do about half health damage to a stink bug here on normal mode. But I guess because sometimes the grenades can be so expensive to make getting the ant eggs, no one really bothers with them. So there's one thing I wanted to touch on and show some of the other games that use base defense to good effect. Valheim is one of them games. As you play the game, every now and then, depending on where you are and what stages you've taken on certain bosses or explored certain biomes, you'll have different enemies come and attack you. It can be a bit random. Sometimes you'll get events that happen very quickly together. Other times it'll happen much longer and further apart. And they do try and mix some of these up a little bit. It can be devastating if two of the biggest trolls come and try and attack your base. They could literally destroy your base. I don't think players want to see that in Grounded. And I don't think the devs would add something like that either. I do think though it would be based on stealing or taking your resources. Sometimes Valheim can get a little bit repetitive because you're chopping trees down a lot and doing the same sort of thing. And you take out a lot of the same enemies like these grey dwarves. But then you have these moments where they'll actually attack you. Not to mention some of the other events that are in the game as well, like skeletons coming to attack you. So this is the kind of thing I'm hoping that Grounded will lean into in some way. Like I said, the other option is to have it as a completely separate game mode. What if there was a Horde creative mode you could play in Grounded, where there was no story, but you were given maybe time limits to build your base, or there was requirements that once you built a base, it would start getting attacks from enemies every 5 days. But given what Adam said about it being kind of integral, I guess, to the game, because he kind of flirts around it saying that the ants are going to push back and creatures are going to push back more, seems like it's not going to be a separate game mode. It is going to be part and parcel of the game. So another game that used that to good effect over the years was 7 Days to Die, pretty much synonymous with base defences. Zombies come and attack your base every 7 days, and you get big, huge hordes of them sometimes come in. It's a real challenge building defences to stop some of these zombies attacking you. You can buy all sorts of different traps, craft your own defences, shotgun turrets, and much more. That's the real big, heavy side of this kind of thing. Valheim doesn't really have any of this stuff. You can basically put fences up and walls up and build yourself a moat, but that's about it. They do have maybe some spiked walls, but it's fairly simple. And this is the route that I reckon Grounded have thought of until now. So we do have obviously the spike sprig traps, or sprig spikes, and they pretty much do a decent job. Ants can get over just one of them, but then obviously on the way out they'll probably die, and you can see they're all just going over the same point. But you can see the ants are obviously attracted to the lure. Didn't take too much for them to pretty much just walk over the traps. So pretty effective. Putting some of these spike traps around will pretty much do most of the job. Although it's clear that even a box like this isn't going to stop all the ants. Now, when you go ahead and you put the lure a little bit higher, you can see the ants aren't really as interested. In fact, for some reason, they still want to come and hit this point, or they're a little bit nervous. This guy's surely going to die if he walks over this anymore. And this is what everyone's pretty much done for the last good year and a bit. Building tall bases to stop ants from getting to your stuff. So it's been pretty much as simple as that. Putting a lure up, literally only maybe 3 foundations high, stops the majority of the ants coming to get your stuff. Although I'm pretty sure if it's actually food in a chest, you do need to build it a little bit higher than that. That's the last aspect as well that we should contemplate, is different bugs attacking. Now I'm struggling to find it at the moment, but I do remember when the bees were being introduced, Adam said he wanted the AI to be pretty good, and so they were testing some of the stuff out with gnats, because you used to spawn in a bee and a gnat would appear. And I do remember from certain interviews them speaking about the fact they wanted other bugs to come and attack you. And we kind of thought that might happen with the bees, that maybe if you had honey inside your base and stuff, that maybe the bees would come and get it. But I don't think that's ever really been the case, but I kind of hope it does in the future. What if we do have to fight off against airborne raiders like mosquitoes, or we do get a big group of gnats coming? You can artificially get stuff like this to happen. They will come for the lures, and so we know the AI is kind of there. So I'm down for this. Like I said, I'm knowing it's not going to be for everyone. If they do maybe just tweak the AI this time to make it that the creatures will be a bit more cunning, a bit more smart, maybe not directly just go right into spike traps. Or if they make it ways that some of these creatures can climb certain structures, I think that'll add another layer of creativity that we'll have to think about. But as I said, we don't know exactly what's going to be happening. We do know though that the update is going to be happening, I think, in April. Given that the devs are going to be at a kind of PAX East event, they're going to be on camera, they're going to be doing a live Gradually Grounded, and that normally means they do go ahead and stealth release an update. So that's happening on 23rd of April. The only thing against that is it is a Saturday, and not often do we get updates like these on Saturdays. Microsoft tend to do them just throughout the week. But you never know, maybe they're celebrating and obviously going to maybe be announcing the release date. So I could well see this update dropping, if not the 23rd of April, maybe a few days later in the week. And then we'll finally see whether or not it's just AI that's been improved to make it more of a challenge or to make them just a bit smarter, or whether or not we're going to get a whole host of new traps or improvements to the ones that we've got. Let me know your thoughts about traps and base defences. What do you want to see? I might even do a poll on it on YouTube as well, so go and check that out too. But until next time, I'll catch you for another Grounded video soon.